Greg wrote a book that we're going to be pushing pretty hard on the podcast. It launches July 11. Greg, do you mind me asking just for what's the slug line on the book? Why would somebody want to drop what they're doing and go grab it?
I think people that will read this book are looking for maybe some ideas on how to take the next step, how to find courage, how to build a little confidence, basically in finding what are the keys to unlocking challenging situations and problems that they have. And what I've done is developed 15 chapters, which go through in somewhat granular detail through different industries: aviation, banking, chemical, finance, and my life starting out at age 7, which is an interesting story, and the challenges there too. And at the end of each chapter, we provide a key, which might be a single word. It could be fear, empathy. It could be innovation, happiness. And then we build around that key and talk about why it's relevant to our lives. And at the end, we bring this to a conclusion and explain why each of these steps and each of these doors we unlock, which is our journey, really becomes our destination.
And the title of the book is No Locked Doors. Master
Right.
the Keys to Transform Problems into Possibilities.
Yeah.
And that book will be everywhere books are sold July 11th. Check it out on Amazon, ebook, hard copy, softback. And we'll probably be drawing on some of the principles today as we talk about what is not your largest deal, but definitely your most important, which was my exit.
Yeah. Forget about those airlines.
Yeah.
Those 30 or 40 banks.
Right. Who cares? Greg helped
Small
me
change.
exit my little agency, which I got to be honest with you, it's hysterical when you think about it. Like I've got one of the best investment bankers in the world helping me sell, a small marketing agency. It's like bringing a bazooka to your friend's backyard water gun fight. It was just unfair. But I'm forever grateful. For those of you that don't know, I sold Solutions 8 in October 2022 to a MarTech company. I'm still the CEO of the company, still very actively involved. But I took a modest 8-figure exit and couldn't be happier with the deal, couldn't be happier with the team that we've partnered with since then. And I could not, and this is real, this is true, I could not have done this deal without Greg. I had 40 unsolicited offers, which is an interesting place to be. And here's what's interesting is I'm pretty sure 39 of them were scams. And that's the problem. If you don't have somebody like Greg looking over your shoulder, I had 40 unsolicited offers, and some of them looked, big, massive ivory tower family offices or small investment banking firms or other agencies, and everybody's promising you the world, and the multiples feel like outlandish, and you just don't know what to look at, how to navigate it, what to do. And Greg, mother henned me throughout the entire process, and it was a arduous 8-month, Greg, 9-month. How long did that deal take?
Yeah, it's nearly a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I'd like to do today is just talk to our listeners about if you want to sell a business, and I think most people want to sell a business, the pitfalls, the risks, how to prepare, what to think about, and then, maybe how to find yourself your own Greg Smith. How does that sound as an itinerary, fellas?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I think it's great. I think we have never talked about this before. I know we said that in the intro, but like this, if you have never entered this world, I think what Greg is going to talk about here today is going to kind of blow your mind, because there's possibilities for every business to make a successful exit. I mean, you have to have the fundamentals, you have to have a good business model, you have to have all these other sorts of things, but a lot of people just don't even realize that this is a potential possibility, and probably don't know any investment bankers. I know I didn't before the journey that I went on 2 or 3 years ago. And I think this is an opportunity to really learn. And it has nothing to do with digital marketing here today, aside from thinking about your business and thinking about ways in which, is this something that you want to do? And then obviously it comes back to a lot of the principles that will tie back into the book. So I'm looking forward to hearing more.
So, Greg, obviously my deal was not your average project, and I think that's because it was smaller and not the sort of thing that would generally land on your radar. How did it differ from what you're used to working on, and how might that be relevant to our listener? Like, if there is something of a matrix you can put together as far as, like, your average deal, what people are looking for, just so people can kind of get a sense as to where they land in the spectrum. I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll do that. And maybe to give my answer some context, Kasim, unlike most investment bankers, I have run businesses. So I didn't start out my career or get into investment banking early on. I'm essentially a recovering commercial banker and recovering CPA, and only 2 years. That's the minimum amount of time to get a license. I'm no longer practicing in CPA. That was a long, long time ago. But my background before investment banking is helping build uh, fortunes, if you will, within private families and private family offices, and across several different industries, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and I expect we'll talk about again. So, having run a business, I've been in your shoes, and having built businesses and bought businesses inside of private family offices, I have a pretty deep understanding of what it's like to run a business. And preparing a business for sale is a whole nother subject. We might want to talk about that another time. I think what was unique about your transaction is we did not prepare you for a competitive process. We did not prepare a selling memorandum. We did not have a book. We did not go out and identify prospective buyers, suitors, bidders, and run a competitive auction. What occurred in your situation was about the time you were thinking that it might be a good time to sell, you found yourself in late 2021 and through much of 2022 with just a flurry of solicitations. And let's face it, you're out there, you're on the internet, you're an identity, and you're easily findable in the agency business. And so people did. And so as you and I started looking at these offers and looking at where was your income, where was your EBITDA, how could we create an optimal picture as if we were preparing your company for sale while we were actually in the process of getting solicitations. It was like trying to change the tires on a Mercedes Benz going down the highway at 80 miles an hour. There was just a lot going on. And of course, you had to hold your team together. A transaction might occur, it might not. So this was very, very confidential. And along the way, we started doing due diligence on these offers and solicitations and presentations, and people wanting your time and people wanting to get you into an agreement that might be exclusive and take you off the market so they could have a first peek, and on and on and on and on and on. And I think it would be very easy for young, inexperienced business owners to be tempted to take one of those. Sounds great. Dollars are phenomenal. Great exit, smooth exit. But there's so much due diligence to be done on a buyer before you engage. And that's the normal selling process, is once we have a company that's going to sell and be ready to be sold and have an appropriate selling document and memorandum, we do the heavy lifting first to vet the buyers, find the buyers. And it's global in most cases. And of course, buyers may be strategic, or they may be financial, or they may be both. But the strategic buyers are typically the ones that'll pay the most, because as a bolt on or as part of maybe something they already own, or to build their presence in a particular industry vertical, they will pay more than a financial buyer who's simply looking for a return on investment. So we had to sort all those different solicitations out. And there was one investment banker with a firm I was familiar with in India. And I had just been in India a year or two ago. And when I travel, I try and build relationships with people in my business. So if they have a buy side mandate, they'll think of me in the US. And this gentleman called and he said, I have a buy side mandate for an agency. If you have any ideas about a U.S. based agency, here's kind of our criteria for EBITDA, or if you will, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation. That's EBITDA, and some revenue targets. We'd be keenly interested. My questions back to him were, how well funded is the company, the buyer? Can they close a deal? What is their motivation? And we started talking about their motivation was to implement their AI, or artificial intelligence, into the agency vertical. So what I was able to determine through doing my own due diligence was that they were more than well funded. They were backed by the largest multi-billion-dollar private equity firm in the world. And they had chosen this vertical agencies to expand and grow and build on, and had started putting large amounts of money into the buyer. So, as Kasim said, we sorted through a lot of prospective solicitations and found this one worth taking a look at. So we got under a confidentiality agreement that was appropriate, and also non-circumvention agreements. And then we had a confidential exchange of information. And then all of a sudden, they were in Kasim's boardroom. And that's when we were able to look them in the eye and start sorting things out. So this was a different kind of process. Normally, as I said, it's a competitive auction process where we go out and identify the buyers. In this case, we had kind of a mad rush over an 8 or 9 month period of time before we really got into the deep due diligence.